Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Srimad Bhagavatam, Canto 7, Chapter 15, Text 26, Translation and Commentary by His Divine Grace, Srila A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada. Yasya Sakshat Bhagavati Jnana Deepa Prade Gaurau Martya Asat Dhihi Shrutam Tasya Sarvam Kunjara Shaucha Vat Yasya Sakshad Bhagavati Jnanadeepa Prade Gurau Martya Sadhi Shrutam Tasya Sarvam Kunjara Shochavat Yasya Sakshad Bhagavati Jnanadeepa Prade Gurau Martya Sadhi Shrutam Tasya Sarvam Kunjara Shochavat
Yasya Sakshat Bhagavati Jnanadeepa Prade Guru Jnanadeepa Prade Guru Martya Sadhi Shrutam Tasya Martya Sadhi Shrutam Tasya Sarvam Kunjara Shochavat Sarvam Kunjara Shochavat Yasya Sakshat Bhagavati Yasya Sakshat Bhagavati Jnanadeepa Prade Guru Jnanadeepa Prade Guru Martya Sadhi Shrutam Tasya Martya Sadhi Shrutam Tasya Sarvam Kunjara Shochavat Sarvam Kunjara Shochavat
Yasya Sakshat Bhagavati
Yasya Sakshat Bhagavati
Jnanadeepa Prade Guru
Jnanadeepa Prade Guru
Martya Sadhi Shrutam Tasya
Martya Sadhi Shrutam Tasya
Sarvam Kunjara Shochavat
Sarvam Kunjara Shochavat
Yasya Sakshat Bhagavati
Yasya Sakshat Bhagavati
Jnanadeepa Prade Gurau
Jnanadeepa Prade Guru
Martya Sadhi Shrutam Tasya
Martya Sadhi Shrutam Tasya
Sarvam Kunjara Shochavat
Sarvam Kunjara Shochavat.
Ladies, please.
Yasya Sakshat Bhagavati Jnanadeepa Prade Guru Martya Sadhi Shrutam Tasya Sarvam Kunjara Shochavat
Yasya, one who, Sakshat, directly, Bhagavati, the Supreme Personality of Godhead, Jnana, Deepa, Prade, who enlightens with the torch of knowledge, Guru, unto the spiritual master, Martya, Asat, Dihi, considers the spiritual master to be like an ordinary human being and maintains such an unfavorable attitude. Shrutam, Vedic knowledge. Tasya, for him. Sarvam, everything. Kunjara, Shaucha, Vat, like the bath of an elephant in a lake. The spiritual master should be considered to be directly the Supreme Lord because he gives transcendental knowledge for enlightenment. Consequently, for one who maintains the material conception that the spiritual master is an ordinary human being, everything is frustrated. His enlightenment and his Vedic studies and knowledge are like the bathing of an elephant. Purport: it is recommended that one honor the spiritual master as being on an equal status with the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Sakshad dharitvena samasta shastraihi. This is enjoined in every scripture. Acharyang mang vijaniyat. One should consider the Acharya to be as good as the Supreme Personality of Godhead. In spite of all these instructions, if one considers the spiritual master an ordinary human being, one is doomed. His study of the Vedas and his austerities and penances for enlightenment are all useless, like the bathing of an elephant. An elephant bathes in a lake quite thoroughly, but as soon as it comes on the shore, it takes some dust from the ground and strews it over his body. Thus there is no meaning to the elephant's bath. One may argue by saying that since the spiritual master's relatives and the men of his neighborhood consider him an ordinary human being, what is the fault on the part of the disciple who considers the spiritual master an ordinary human being? This will be answered in the next verse, but the injunction is that the spiritual master should never be considered an ordinary man. One should directly adhere to the instructions of the spiritual master, for if he is pleased, certainly the Supreme Personality of Godhead is pleased. Yasya prasadad bhagavat prasado yasya prasadan nagati gatopi. Om jnana timirandhasya jnananjana shalakaya chakshurin militam yena tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha. Nama Shreshtam Manum Api Shachiputram Atra Swarupam Rupam Tasyagrajam Urupuring Maturim Goshtavartim Radha Kundam Girivaramaho Radhika Madhavasham Prapto Yasya Pratita Kripaya Shri Gurum Tam Vatosmi. Vandeham Shri Guru Shri Ataf Padakamalam Shri Gurun Vaishnavangscha Shri Rupam Sagrajatam Sahagana Raghunatan Vitam Tam Sajivam Sadvaitam Savadhutam Parajana Sahitam Krishna Chaitanya Devam Shri Radha Krishna Padan Sahagana Lalita Shri Vishakhan Vitamscha Guru Vaishnava Bhagavan Tine Smarani Hoy Bigna Vinashan Anayashi Hoy Nijavantita Puran. Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare. Krishna is the Supreme Personality of Godhead, and the Jiva, the individual, fragmental, part and parcel soul, is the eternal servant of Krishna. Jiva Sarup Hoy Krishna Nitya Das. We don't see Krishna in this world. We are enjoined to see him through the Shastras, Jnana-dipa, the knowledge which gives light, and who gives that knowledge is to be considered on the level of the Supreme Personality of Godhead in the matter of giving instructions. If he speaks the right thing and acts according to that, should be considered the representative of Krishna. So we are Krishna Das, and we are supposed to be Guru Das also, servant of the Guru. Now we are in this world Kama Das, servant of material desire. We should better be Ramadas, the servant of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. This idea of service is not much appreciated in the present society, especially in America, the land of the free. The land of the free, the land of the brave, and in France, that wonderful country, liberté, the first principle of the French nation, liberté, égalité, fraternité, and the guillotine if you don't go along with that. So freedom, egalitarianism, more or less equal, everyone should be equal, and fraternity. I don't know what the female word for that is. Nowadays they have to say fraternité or sisterté, something like that. Féminité. The principles of enshrined in they use those words, enshrined in the American Constitution. And the French, they value freedom so highly, it's practically above God. It's a higher principle. Rather than following the laws of God, they put freedom above that. They're very afraid of the idea of being a slave. But we are promoting slavery. What is your philosophy? We promote slavery. Would that be very palatable in the modern age, or any age? We're not the only organization that calls for strict obedience. There's another one right here in the Czech Republic. It's called the Czech Army. I presume they have an army. Most countries do. Not all countries. Even the Vatican has its own army, tiny little state. There's one state, Costa Rica, they don't have an army. They don't have an army, no. I guess they think, what's the use with America next door? You can't resist them, so you might as well play their game, and then they'll protect us. I guess that's their idea. Anyway, let's not talk about mundane politics, but in the military, you just have to do what you're told. That's all. It's more strict than ISKCON, much more strict. You can't post things on Facebook against your commanding officer. There's no independence. You sign up for it. So we're saying you should be a slave, but a slave of the principle of love. What is that? Dasma. The Shikshashtaka, the 20th chapter of Antilila. Dasmori. What is that? Betan Premadan. What is that? Do you remember that verse? You don't remember. Anyway. Lord Chaitanya is saying that make me a servant, but give me the wages of Premadan. You get the treasure of love. So slavery to Krishna, who is the Lord of love. And he himself finds love so appealing that he wants to become the servant, he wants to become a slave of his devotee, and he agrees to be tied up. Not by you or me, by Mother Yashoda. And the younger gopis also. That has a very high level. But we can worship Mother Yashoda. Remember Mother Yashoda, worship her. So this initiation, this verse I read today, because it's for initiation today. So you're signing up, you're committing to be tied up, bondage, a slave, to follow a way of life that most people would not volunteer for. The army most people don't volunteer for. And not all would be accepted even if they want to volunteer. There are qualifications to get into the army. That's just an analogy, because the aim of the Czech army is what? To keep out the Russian army? Czech army versus the Russian? Well, anyway, let's not talk about that too much. John's mentioned something about Ukraine, but it's probably best not to. We have a very different aim that most people in the world would consider an impingement on our freedom, highly restrictive, and impossible to follow. When Srila Prabhupada's godbrother was Goswami Maharaj, he was in England, and he asked Lord Zetland asked him, can you make me a brahmana? And Goswami Maharaj replied, yes. All you have to do is give up meat eating, gambling, intoxication, and illicit sex. And Lord Zetland laughed and said, impossible. That is our way of life. How can we give up these things? But you are volunteering to do this, which you couldn't have imagined. Some of you are born into this, but many of you couldn't have imagined doing that previously. You're committing yourself to a process, and specifically committing to a person, to surrender to your life to a person with the faith that this person is as good as God. That's what it entails. Yesterday someone asked about the qualifications for initiation. So I said 16 rounds, 4 regulated principles, but I didn't say that. And commitment to pursue the goal of pure devotional service, anyabhilashita shunyam. But another point there, that Srila Prabhupada, when he was asked after he gave the first initiation in the Western countries, he was asked afterwards, what is the meaning of initiation? Srila Prabhupada said, to accept the Guru as good as God. That may be very frightening. You're setting yourself up to be exploited. If someone has complete control over someone else, generally they are not so nice. They take them as the property. There is the possibility, it seems, there's the possibility of being deeply hurt if the Guru mistreats you, or Krishna forbid, himself fails to follow the principles that he himself is now demanding and that you follow. We all know, you're all aware, we've had many problems with gurus in ISKCON. I remember many years ago, that was I was initiating one devotee in London, and Radhanath Swami and Bhakti Charu Swami, between them were initiating, maybe 100 devotees or more. I was initiating Nityananda Shakti, who did many years of good service and is now missing in action, or not in action, missing in action, not action in Krishna consciousness. But at that talk, at that initiation ceremony, that was maybe toward the end of the last century, maybe or early this century. So Kripamoy Prabhu gave a talk, and he said this is the first major initiation of Bhaktivedanta for many years. That would have been since the time of Bhagavan. You were around there at the time. And he said that everyone here, now we're in the age of the internet, so maybe it was early 21st century. So everyone knows the history of ISKCON and so many bad things. But still they're here making their commitment. He made that point. He has many good insights, isn't it? Kripamoy Prabhu, do you have that impression? He's very thoughtful. There are many problems, and there have been many problems, and that gave rise to the ritvic heresy, which was imagined several years after Srila Prabhupada's departure. We never heard or imagined of any such thing. It was dreamed up after Srila Prabhupada's departure. But the idea was that, well, let's make it safe. Let's be safe. So we'll go directly to Srila Prabhupada. I'm a disciple of Rupa Goswami. So are all of you who are initiated, because they're all our gurus. Vandeham Shri Guru Shri Gurun. They're all our gurus. We take initiation. It's not initiation from a single person, it's initiation into a sampradaya, and so many gurus. We have so many gurus. But we are committing to one specific person. And although the ritvic idea is, well, it's safe, it's not safe. It's spiritual suicide, because it's just don't wait to cut your throat. Do it immediately, because it's not according to Guru or Sadhu or Shastra. So it's extremely dangerous. The only way you can justify this newly imagined system is to misrepresent what Srila Prabhupada said and what he intended, and always look for faults in those within ISKCON who are serving as gurus. In other words, it's institutionalized Vaishnava aparad. It's like Pakistan. Pakistan has no reason to be independent of India except to always say, they have to say bad things about India all the time. They have to maintain enmity with India. They say, well, we needed a Muslim homeland, but there are more Muslims in India than there are in Pakistan. And they're all living at least as well as the Muslims in Pakistan. So they have to always portray India as their enemy and point out the faults in India. And sure, India has plenty of faults. And if you have a country that big, sure, you're going to have plenty of faults. So similarly, the ritvic it all rests on pointing out faults in the original ISKCON. They call themselves Srila Prabhupada's ISKCON. Although the main leader in that is much more prominent. He's practically the Acharya. Anyway, you don't know. You don't even know about all that. It's an so-called initiation system never heard of or imagined previously in all of Vedic culture, except in the Sikhs. They had how many gurus? 9 gurus, is it? 9 gurus, and then they stopped, and now they just take the book. They just worship the book. They don't know what's in the book. They're not allowed to read it, except a few people. But they worship the book. The actual system, according to Shastra and tradition, is that a prospective candidate should carefully examine the character and the eligibility of someone who they may wish to approach for spiritual initiation, and when they have faith that this person can represent Krishna to me through the parampara system, then they should approach and ask for initiation. Now I'm going to speak something about myself, as those who are being initiated by myself are coming through me. Among gurus in ISKCON, it seems like that. They say I'm very strict. I'm looking for commitment, high commitment. I don't know if others, those who are initiating within ISKCON, for instance, insist on being in the habit of taking only Krishna prasadam and not food cooked by non-devotees. Even if you buy some bread from a shop and stick it in front of a picture of Krishna, that's not considered prasadam, because it has to be cooked and offered by devotees. Otherwise Krishna doesn't accept it. It's not that I'm just emphasizing rules, but we're looking for the spirit of wanting to give ourselves fully to Krishna, of following the process by which we can come to the level of pure devotion to Krishna. That process is called Saranagati, which the first 2 principles are anukulyasya sankalpa pratikulyasya varjanam, which covers all the rules and regulations. We should only do that which is favorable for advancing in devotional service, and we should stop doing those things, make a vow to stop doing those things which will impede our advancement in devotional service. I may think, well, you're just buying a little bread from the shop, and what's the harm? We don't see any blood coming out of the bread. It's vegetarian. What's the harm? Then you have to go to Shastra. You have to see, what does Chaitanya Mahaprabhu say? How many times have I said this? Bishoyer onna kaile, molin hoi mon. The mind becomes contaminated by eating food of sense enjoyers. So we should perform activities which are favorable for advancing in Krishna consciousness, chanting the holy names, the 9 processes of devotional service, associating with devotees. So many rules are given in the Nectar of Devotion, Bhakti Rasamrita Sindhu, and then there are the do's and the do-nots, vidhi nisheda. And the things which we shouldn't do, well, we shouldn't do it. And then we have Rakshishati Vishvaso, faith that Krishna will protect us. Goptritve Varanang Tata. Krishna will maintain us. Krishna is looking after us. Krishna will protect us. Then Atmanikshepa, which means the same thing as Atmanivedana. Atmanivedana means surrendering to Krishna. Atmanikshepa is surrendering, yes, but throwing ourselves at Krishna, just forcefully going to Krishna. And humility, karpanya, humility. Bhaktivinoda Thakur, in his series of songs which show how he has taken the spirit of Saranagati, the path of surrender to Krishna, how he has taken that in his own life. It's autobiographical songs. He begins with the principle of dainya, humility, which Rupa Goswami puts as sixth. You say it's underlying all the others. Humility. So I'm looking for the commitment to accept seriously all these six limbs, Saranagati, Sharanga Saranagati, six limbs, six aspects of Saranagati, the path of surrender to Krishna. Because without this, we can't advance in Krishna consciousness, and then there's no meaning to initiation. It becomes a formality without any substance behind it. Initiation means the spirit of surrender to Krishna. Dikka kale bhakta kare ata samarpan. At the time of initiation, a devotee offers himself, gives himself to Krishna. Srila Prabhupada, he emphasized again and again and again that we have to take these regulative principles very seriously. If that book, The Mode and Mission of Srila Prabhupada, ever comes, I guess it'll get here sometime. So you'll see there's a whole section how Srila Prabhupada... I just gave a few samples from Srila Prabhupada's letters, how he again and again and again and again emphasized that we have to follow these regulated principles. And it should be obvious why, because there can be no real spiritual life without following those regulated principles. So what's the meaning of spiritual life unless we're following something? Then it becomes some new agey imagination. You just, I am spiritual but not religious. It means you just imagine you're spiritual, that's all. I emphasize on this because, well, especially because nowadays there's a lot of compromise from the standards that Srila Prabhupada gave us, means the standards that are passed down in parampara since time immemorial. There are some who may follow the principles just about, or 3.5, we've sometimes heard. But rather we should try to follow as strictly as possible. Illicit sex, divorce, remarriage, they're all so common nowadays among devotees that we hardly think anything of it. A few years ago, my one godbrother and godsister, and one day they're married for many years, and one day that godsister said to him, I don't want to be with you anymore. I don't have any objection to you, but I just don't want to be with you anymore. And she left him. And he was trying to get various senior devotees to try to speak to her. And they all said, why bother? Just get used to it. That's just as if it's normal. It's messy, all this stuff. But we try to sanitize it by citing emotional distress, neglect, mistreatment, complex psychological reasons. And the legal system upholds it. It's easy to have a divorce. Or you can make a contract before marriage that just in case we divorce, to save all the legal problems later, we'll just in case. We're not really thinking about it, just in case. And you get this, I get the house, and you get the dog, and like that. We have speculative ideas to support sense gratification, very broad definitions of what is meant by illicit sex or intoxication, rationalizations and justifications for falling into illicit sex. And yeah, it's tough. It's a bad world, and we are products of this bad world, but we are making vows and we are making a commitment. So let's be clear that illicit sex is always sinful. It's always wrong. It's sinful just like meat eating, gambling, intoxication. They're all sinful. Now, of course, there may be degrees. There's a difference between illicit sex within marriage and not, for instance. We're all human beings. We're all weak. That is true, but still, we are committing to come to the superhuman platform. And we should know that there are reactions for sinful activities, and more for those who know what is right and wrong, and for those who commit to do the right thing and do the wrong thing. It's heavy, isn't it? Feeling this to be heavy? Well, it is, but material life, birth after birth, is a lot more heavy. So we can take some we find life in the world to be so tough, we take some intoxication to forget it. But that doesn't solve the problem. The problem is solved by being Krishna conscious, going beyond birth and death. It's not easy. It is easy in some ways. It's easy to chant Hare Krishna. It's not a mechanical process. We're calling to Krishna. Krishna will help. That we have to have that faith. But we have to keep up this mood. Otherwise, everything becomes very compromised, and then within Vaishnava society, and then what's the point? Where are we going? Initiation, and Srila Prabhupada said we shouldn't keep a guru like a fashion, like a dog. It's nice to have a dog. It's good for you emotionally. It's recommended by psychologists. Have a dog or a cat, and then the dog will lick you, and you'll feel happy. So it's good for your emotional health. Better to be a dog of Krishna. That's what we say. But that's another example that practically everywhere we see dogs. Devotees keep dogs as pets. You always see a dog running around here. That was for the idea of protecting the children. Okay, that's all right. But I don't see. What happened to your dog? You had a Alsatian dog, German Shepherd. No, don't know. Forgot the dog. All right. It may make us feel uncomfortable saying all these things. And then we find some groups of devotees who will criticize that those who are following or trying to follow these things or even talk about these things, they're all hypocrites, they're all fundamentalists, jihadis. Let's be normal, let's be natural. What's the harm if we drink a little wine now and then, chant Hare Krishna, and little, not much. Little marijuana. Not much. It's good for meditation, right? Sadhus in India, they smoke marijuana. And those rules about illicit sex. Or we may follow the process of Krishna consciousness to some level. But not really throwing ourselves at Krishna, surrendering fully to Krishna. It's a gradual process, but we have to be in the process. Otherwise, it's not gradual. then we gradually sink down to hell. Either we're going up or we're going down. We're always on the move. The material world, gacchati iti jagat, that which keeps on moving is the material world. So strive to go up, praying to Krishna. We have to make our effort also. We depend on the mercy of Krishna, but we have to make our effort also. Now, there are different approaches in Krishna consciousness, but there are some basic rules which everyone's supposed to follow. And those who claim to be followers of Srila Prabhupada should know what Srila Prabhupada wanted us to follow and try to adhere to that as closely as possible. I made that book, The Mood and Mission of Srila Prabhupada, just to put it in one place, what Srila Prabhupada wanted of his followers. And yeah, there can be different approaches in following Srila Prabhupada, different understandings of what he intended. Some things are very clear, and on things that are clear, we should, if we want to call ourselves followers of Srila Prabhupada, then we should follow that. One thing that Srila Prabhupada is very clear about, you may say it's not such a big thing, but it is one thing that Srila Prabhupada is very clear about, and this has been a big issue in Croatia, that Srila Prabhupada didn't want his male followers to have beards. For the women it doesn't, obviously, doesn't pertain. Well, for that matter, he also wanted his female followers to wear saris and not these gopi skirts. But anyway, that's another discussion. Srila Prabhupada was very clear about that. There's no objection to members of other sampradayas, even within Gauriya Vaishnavism, or anyone else having a beard. But if you want to follow Srila Prabhupada says, in a letter in 1967, we must distinguish ourselves from the hippies. The hippies generally maintain long hair and beard, and in order to distinguish ourselves from them, we should be clean-shaved. Burijan Prabhu, in his book, My Glorious Master, narrated that when Srila Prabhupada came to a temple in Australia, no, it was New Zealand, many devotees at that time who called themselves followers of Srila Prabhupada had long hair, men had long hair, and Srila Prabhupada addressed that issue by telling the story of Sanatana Goswami meeting Chaitanya Mahaprabhu in Varanasi, where Chaitanya Mahaprabhu told Sanatana Goswami to become bhadra, to become gentlemanly. And Srila Prabhupada, he wrote in purport in this section of Caitanya-caritamrta where this is described. Sanatana Goswami looked like a Daravesh, which is a kind of Muslim holy man, and Srila Prabhupada equated that with a hippie. So Srila Prabhupada wrote that if anyone with a long hair or a beard wants to join this Krishna consciousness movement and live with us, he must similarly shave himself clean. The followers of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu consider long hair objectionable. Then in 1976, Srila Prabhupada wrote, unless absolutely necessary, one should keep head shaven and not allow the hair to grow long. If absolutely necessary, one can dress like an American gentleman with short hair, but long hair is prohibited. The reason that one with long hair is not my disciple is because he is against the principle. What is the principle? The principle is following the order of the spiritual master. If you don't do that, then how can you be called a disciple? Then Srila Prabhupada continued. It is not expected that everyone will join. For that reason we can't compromise. We may have the idea, well, if we're less strict with the rules, then more people will join. But Srila Prabhupada wrote, it is not expected that everyone will join. For that reason we can't compromise. The tendency is there to be a hippie. And the devotee had written to him, had mentioned about seeing pictures of the previous acharyas with a beard, and Srila Prabhupada said, when the acharyas are seen with a beard, that is during Chaturmasya. If observed strictly, there is not simply a beard, there are many rules and regulations. You can't eat a variety of foods, only khichdi prepared and poured on the floor and then licked up from the floor. There are so many other rules also. It's not that they always kept a beard. When Srila Prabhupada, one devotee said to Srila Prabhupada, well, Jesus had a beard, Advaita Acharya had a beard, and Prabhupada said, so why shouldn't I have a beard? And Srila Prabhupada said, because now you are my disciple. Srila Prabhupada didn't like it. So we see that there are some devotees that they're not very attached to following the principles, but they're fiercely attached to their beards. But if you can't even give up that stool coming out of your face, because after all, it's what is that? Excess, residue, excrement from the body. It's waste matter, that's it. So it's a kind of, we always used to say, right? Hair is like stool. Remember? We used to say that. It's like stool, you're shaving, cutting off. So, if we can't give up attachment to that, then how can we give up attachment to sex life, so many material attachments? For someone who's supposed to be a follower of Srila Prabhupada, to keep a beard is like boldly proclaiming, I won't surrender to Srila Prabhupada's instructions. I want to stay in the material world. Lord Chaitanya said that if by committing suicide I could attain Krishna, I would be willing to do so millions of times. So, if by growing a beard I could attain Krishna, I would grow a beard down to my ankles. So what do you want? Beard or bhakti? If you want to be a follower of Srila Prabhupada, if you want to come and chant and join the kirtan, you can have a beard, you can have red hair spiked here and green hair spiked there. But if you want to be initiated and call yourself a follower of Srila Prabhupada, then it has to be Guru Mukha Padma Vakya Chitete Korea Aika. You have to do what he says. If you're on the farm, rough life and little growth, all right, once a month, Shastra says, and Gauriya Mat sannyasis, they follow that up to the present time, most of them, that they shave once a month, maximum once a month. I'm just giving that as an example. That's just one thing. There are so many, and so many things that we want to compromise, make different. Manushanam sahasreshu kaschid yatiti siddhi. Among thousands of men, one may take to spiritual life. Among millions of people in the world, only a very small percentage take to Krishna consciousness. And of those who take to Krishna consciousness, it seems only of just we have that verse. Kasyajyavdi sitiya yatitame bisiddhanang kaschin mang veti tadvataha. Out of thousands of men, one may take to spiritual life, and of those who have achieved perfection, hardly one knows me in truth, Krishna says. So, out of among many people, only a small percentage take to Krishna consciousness. But we see nowadays very, very few seem to pick up this spirit of anyabhilashita shunyata, of only wanting to cultivate Krishnanushilanam, wanting to cultivate a spirit of selfless service to Krishna. And again we think Srila Prabhupada, when we joined, Srila Prabhupada didn't teach us anything else. That's what it was, right? If you're going to be Krishna conscious, it's all or nothing. There was no in between. Srila Prabhupada made provision for that, or he spoke of making provision for that with Varnashram communities. It's hard to establish Varnashram because already there's so much compromise out there in the world. What's the ideal to follow? Brahmins should come first. First of all, Srila Prabhupada wanted to make a class of brahmanas who can lead by example and give proper guidance. You may say, phew, it's really tough. Sounds really tough to be Krishna conscious. It's not tough. Chanting Hare Krishna is very easy, but we have to know that it's not just chanting Hare Krishna. We have to make the effort to chant Hare Krishna in purity. In purity. Therefore, at the time of initiation, the 10 offenses to the holy name are recited. There's a difference between chanting Shuddhanam. The holy name of Krishna is always pure. Nama Chintamani Krishnas. Caitanya Rasa Vigrahaha. Purno Shuddho Nitya Mukta Abhinatvan Nama Namino Ho. The name of Krishna is always full, spiritual, blissful, beyond any material considerations. But our chanting of it may not be pure. So we have to make the commitment to endeavor for that purity in chanting. And that's also a reason for taking initiation. Because sampradaya vihinaye mantras te nishvala mata, mantras not received in a bona fide sampradaya, they are ineffective. Now the Hare Krishna mantra is very special in this regard. Anyone, anywhere, anytime, even without initiation can chant. But initiation means we commit to purity, to surrendering to Krishna, and we receive knowledge, as this verse we read today. Jnana-dipa prade guru. The Guru gives knowledge. So we have to take that knowledge, and with that knowledge comes commitment. When we understand what is Krishna consciousness, then we want to commit to it. And only by committing to it can we properly advance and go further. So our commitment is to be a slave, not even a slave of Krishna. That's just in short. That's the general principle. Jiva Sarup Hoy Krishna Nitya Das. But the more expanded form, Chaitanya Mahaprabhu said, Gopi Bharatur Pade Kamalaya Das Das Anudas. To become the servant of the servant of the servant. It's a very blissful commitment, very happy. We become very happy by committing ourselves. Atmanivedantu apade kari hoinu parama shuki, Bhaktivinoda Thakur says. Now I surrendered myself to you, Krishna. I feel so blissful, and we can perceive that. Hare Krishna. Vanchakalpatarubhyascha kripa sindhuvyavacha patitanam pavanebhyo vaishnavebhyo namo namaha. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna.